Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our March. No, that's not March. Take two. Hey, hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our May 2022 Spider History with JR. JR, I got my M months confused. It is not March. It is, whoa, it's May.
I know. I think what's happened is because we've been wearing the same clothes
For 3 months.
like the last 60 days or whatever. I think the fumes are kind of starting to get to us.
I guess so. We need a shower, It's not like we record all these at once.
No. I mean, I'm too old. I wouldn't have the energy to record 3 straight months of Spider history. But then again, I guess if I were artificially required to shorten the time that I could spend, I suppose I could get some more.
Guess what? This one you can go as long as you want.
Oh,
and it's talking about goblins, so you can enjoy the extra time. Speaking of someone we also enjoy is George. What's going on, George? Welcome back to the May 2022 show.
Hi.
Yeah, and George actually decided to look a little different this month. He took his hat off. So,
well, I'd wore that hat for 2 months.
Yep.
Figured
Just
maybe
like
it was time.
We haven't changed our clothes in 2 months. So
yeah. So we are headed. Well, tell me the origin of this episode, JR, because this is more of what the fans demanded, right?
Well,
not sticking to the specific month and year, right?
Well, no, trying to as much as possible.
Yeah.
Trying to as much as possible. But last year, when we were in a drunk, when we made we probably were drunk or high or something, and we asked the fan. Well, why would we ask the fan? Or why would we ask the fans for their input when we know better? We are the we tell them what they will enjoy.
No, the fans asked you to review some of these books in this episode.
This is why the Spider satellites exist. Because people were like, hey, why don't y'all cover this and cover that? It's the whole reason why a whole team of people has to suffer every month reading truly god-awful Spider-Man content. It's because the fans demanded that.
That's true.
That's literally true. That's the exact reason that whole show exists and those poor people have to suffer is because fans demanded that, literally.
Mm.
So we're not Marvel. We listen to our fans.
So
we don't hold them in contempt the way that Marvel does.
So in that rare moment,
we're clear on all of it.
I would complain, but then again, George will always bring up the one small time during Fight Club where we were talking about the Green Goblin issue, and I was asked for my opinion, and I just kind of kept going.
Oh,
and
you just took it over? Yeah.
George accused me of taking over his show, which
George accused you of it because it was what you'd done.
Well,
you got through half the episode before I finally said, no, JR, keep going. I was going to cover the fight, but all right, whatever. And you were like, oh, yeah, wait, it's not my show. And I was like, it's okay. I mean, yeah, it's like a dog humping your leg. Just let him finish.
All right, so the hologram is on the cover. This is the 30th anniversary that all the Spider-Man... oh, my gosh. We're in the 60th.
Pay your bill, Fettinger.
Audio listeners, JR's light keeps going on and off. We think Electro has invaded his basement.
We're not talking about my mental pilot light. We're talking about a physical.
What's funny is that getting into StreamYard, there's a little window that says, proper lighting makes you look great.
JR's like, screw that. I look good in the dark.
Yeah,
I was about to say.
Here's like, let me give you a slow strobe.
Yeah, I was about to say it's going to take a little bit more than lighting to wipe some of the years off of this.
30 years ago, this book came out. I love the hologram colors. Don't you guys? I loved them back in the day. Did you guys not like them?
No, I didn't. I thought they were just a fad gimmick like milk caps.
Well, just to make us pay more for the issue. I mean, they're really not that good. I mean,
oh, hush. They're beautiful. $2.95 gets you a Sal Buscema hologram Spidey. I love it. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, talking about how these issues, the fans, we for whatever reason, we opened up the floodgates and said, what would you like to see on Spider history?
Yep.
And a lot of things came up. The Cult of Love, the Planet of the Symbiotes.
No,
God.
Spectacular 189, Spectacular 200, Facade.
Oh, yeah.
And
I hear that a lot.
And so and Swingers. or slingers or stingers?
That's the
What
wrong
was it?
book.
Slingers.
Slingers is good.
Was that a Max title or?
Oh, I know what it was. It was Spider Hunt. That was it. Spider Hunt, because the stingers were swinging in it. Anyway, and they were cooking, so they were slinging as well.
Got it.
But anyway, so because I am a very magnanimous orator, I said, you know what? Because part of the problem was all of these issues happened around the same time period, June to October. So it was like, oh, how am I going to, but because I love the fans so much, I'm going to make it work. I don't know what order it's going to be in. So, like, for example, June, July, I don't know what order they're going to be in.
But the fans demanded Spider History, and by God,
it will be a summer of fan request.
There you go.
So you'll get, if assuming that my wife doesn't kill me before that time, which is always a threat.
Big assumption.
I always live under that sword of Damocles, boys and girls. So before the summer is out, before the I think it'll go to October. You should see Cult of Love, Stingers, Swingers, Death. What is it? Spider Hunt. Yeah, that's what it's called. Facade, Cult of Love. I mean, Planet of the Symbiotes.
Oof,
oh
God.
Boy, we're gonna have that. May
awful.
God,
that may take 2 whole months to tell that one.
Oh, please no.
Well, I don't know, because they were all special overpriced issues. But anyway,
They were.
189 and 200 came up.
Yeah.
comics version of herpes. A lot of this stuff.
So I said, you know what? I'll make a special Goblin centric. So we'll do 189. We'll do 200, and then we'll do like the Coda, which is Spectacular Spider-Man Annual number 14, which was which was the last word on Harry Osborn until the next last word on Harry Osborn, which was the
hologram.
No, God, it was that special issue with Ben Urich, where Ben Urich was trying to was investigating, and then you had the Flying Goblin Girl robots. I forget what that was called. And then the next word on Harry was and then the next word on Harry was bringing him back. And then the next word on Harry was, no, he's a clone. And
Legacy of Evil, is that it?
Legacy of Evil. Thank you,
There you go, Hornacek.
Thank
Hornacek
you,
also says this is why the iTunes reviews say that JR is their favorite. We haven't had an iTunes review in years. I don't know if people don't do it anymore.
People don't listen to iTunes as much anymore.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah, back in the day when iTunes was the sole podcast source, we used to get a lot of iTunes reviews.
In fact, I think Apple kind of like split their podcast stuff into its own thing. I don't even think it's on the iTunes store anymore.
It's called Apple Podcasts now.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big part of it too. It's kind of like the same thing as like, there's not a lot of message board traffic in places anymore. How people have transitioned over to other things like Discord.
Well, also every news article has a message board under it, essentially, with a comment section.
Yeah,
that's like a message board.
So things change every so often. I think that's probably why you don't see a lot of iTunes reviews anymore. And also, I notice on a lot of podcast, because I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and I notice on a lot of podcasts, they don't even bother to say, like, give us a give us a review anymore.
Yeah.
Now Peter Palmer says Identity Crisis, which that's probably what it is. Because Spider Hunt came before Identity Crisis.
That's right.
But then again, I have to bring up again Peter Palmer 13.
On the list.
Did you see this?
2 months ago, did you see that?
I had to bring up my list because I had to add Mike Murdoch to it. Okay, so number 1 on the list is Tyson. Okay, number 2 on the list, Peter Palmer 13, and you know why you're on the list.
I was just going to ask, why is he on the list?
You don't remember why he's on the list?
Oh, look, 2 of you people on your list.
We're not crazy like you are. No, we don't. we don't remember who's on your
Peter Palmer 13 is on the list because after you had that episode with the cosplay girls, all right, Peter Palmer 13 wrote and said, I liked the Cosplay Girl episode. It's easier on the eyes than Spider History or Fight Club.
Man,
and
you
I
hold a
said,
grudge.
you not only insulted me, you insulted our good friend George Barrowman. So,
I mean,
George,
he's not wrong.
I'd rather look at Cosplay Girls than us three. I mean,
listen, I have no quarrel with Peter Palmer. All right, Peter Palmer 13, and hopefully Peter Palmer's 1 through 12. But Peter Palmer 13 is an Oscar fan, and on that level, we are, we're like wrestling bros, I mean, so I will defend Peter Palmer on this. All three of us are not that great looking.
Well, you speak for him. Chi-Town says he's not wrong, JR.
Well,
Gary and the Frozen is JR's favorite on one of JR's favorite viewers list.
Did I actually have a favorite viewer? Man, I was about to say, I got to remember now. I got to remind myself of what Mike Murdoch did.
I mean, I could start cosplaying. You want me to get some skin tight spandex up?
You have cosplayed on this show before. I forget what
I have. I've been Italian Kevin Feige.
That's right. Hey, it's Italian Feige.
Hey, it's me, Italian and Kevin Feige from the multiverse. Hey, I'm too tired. I can't say from the multiverse properly.
So Spider-Man gets a box.
Oh, wait a minute.
From UPS.
I have to put my list away. So anyway, all right.
What's in the box, Peter?
One of these days, names will be on all of these, and I'll have every single one of them.
What's in the box, Pete?
All right. Anyway, prior to Harry Osborn, who has now really gone off the deep end, brought Aunt May a little present. Said, Aunt May, give this to Peter. All right. So issue 189 opens with Peter having just opened the present. And of course, Mary Jane is, Mary Jane is ready for some fun this evening. She's had a long day working on her soap opera, and
dude, she just walked in the door. How do you know this?
And she's getting, as she says, getting ready to spend the afternoon with her honey. And then she snuggles up to him. But Peter's playing with his Jack in the Box. And he plays it. And then the next page. Gotcha!
Is that the first gotcha? Or what? It was after the parents with the gotcha, wasn't it? Was this after parents?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is after parents. Yeah, because Harry.
Well, it's after
no. It's before parents. Okay, because he died and brought the parents back.
Right. Yeah.
So this might be the first gotcha.
So it's so all right, scary goblin face, and I mean, I've never been again, I don't dislike Sal or whatever, but everybody has their favorite artist or whatever. But Al draws a pretty good goblin. Sal draws a pretty good goblin face.
By the way, Gary and the Frozen says that this face is on a T-shirt on the Kohl's website. So if you would like this actual image on a T-shirt, JR, you can get it.
Actually, I believe I already have one.
Ooh, look at you. All right.
Yes, I know. Well, unfortunately,
you should wear it on a podcast coming up.
Well, the only problem was when I bought it, I was a smaller.
Let's say you brought it a long time ago, and now
needless to say, age has taken a toll, and not just on the hair and the eyes and the hearing, but unfortunately has taken a toll on my Charles Atlas physique. So. Yeah.
Anyway, Molten Man and Liz.
All right.
Anyway,
well, anyway, it's like Brad wants me to do Spider History, but he doesn't actually want me to talk during Spider History.
Hornacek says that Tyson posted on the Discord about being on JR's list back in August of 2021. So he's still around. He knows he's on the list, and he's bragging now.
Yeah, well, he's the longest surviving member on the list. I mean.
Anyway, why are Liz and Molten Man upset? What's happening?
All right. So, of course, everyone knows Molten Man is Liz's stepbrother.
Stepbro.
Okay. Yeah. And he's now rehabilitated or, whatever. Anyway, so, and now, of course, he's not on fire anymore. because Harry turned a hose on him back during an earlier issue of Spectacular Spider-Man when Harry had moved out to Jersey. He and Liz had moved out to Jersey before Normie was born or whatever. And Harry sprayed him with the hose, and then he stopped being on fire, and he's just slick and golden like he was back during the Steve Ditko days, which reminds me of a news article Brad had said, hey, look, they discovered a different Ditko cover for that issue. Let's make this a whole news item, and let's talk about it. But anyway, that was back, Anyway, so little Normie walks in and says, hey, I didn't realize it was Halloween. But look, there's this big pumpkin, that, was left. And of course, well, the pumpkin, emits gas, a very noxious gas. And everybody collapses and falls asleep. Well, we go back to Peter and Mary Jane, and so Peter's still playing with his Jack-in-the-Box, and Mary Jane calls out from the bedroom, and there is a Spider-Man costume just kind of laying there, all, whatever he's doing. It's kind of like, maybe it's like the prisoners of Alcatraz or whatever, trying to fool somebody by, putting something in there and making believe is, whatever. But anyway, so there's this Spider-Man costume just laying there, but Peter's spider sense goes off, and, boom, but it's not really an explosive device. It's just a whole bunch of confetti. And Harry is, Peter is not very happy right now. And Mary Jane says, well, wait a minute, if he's messing with us, Liz and Normie are just right below us. What is he doing to them? And, you don't think he'd hurt him, do you? And Peter says, well, Harry Osborn wouldn't, but the Green Goblin is another matter. Mm-hmm. So, and then I turn the page and I see a big full page ad for Fleer Comics by Roger Clemens, pre-steroid. Roger Clemens.
Oh my.
I didn't get into Hall of Fame during my initial qualifying time, Roger Clemens. I didn't take steroids, Roger Clemens. Whatever. So
it's sports history also, along with American history.
Yeah. Good. Have a good time waiting for that phone call to go to the Hall of Fame, you asshole. Anyway. You and Barry Bonds can sit and have a mutual admiration society, everyone's so unfair to us.
So Harry throws a dinner.
Anyway, so
Spider-Man pitch base.
So Harry has gone off the deep end, obviously. Yep. So he's throwing a dinner with, and the whole thing. And of course, there's this adorable picture of him as a kid and Norman behind him.
That's creepy.
Great Norman Osborn.
That's creepy.
And Harry it's like, I am just going to be this wonderful family man now. Okay, so I like to dress in a weird little green and purple costume, talk psychotically, and threaten everybody else. But I'm going to take care of you guys. I love you so much. Even though I've got you trapped down here and in the bottom of this basement, that's all the exit is all bricked up so you can never leave. But trust me, I love you. Just kind of like George Carlin says when he talks about religion, if you disobey the 10 Commandments, well, whatever. That's whatever. George Carlin, great comedian, great philosopher. Look up his videos on YouTube. Not when he's really, really old and fading, but kind of earlier. Anyway, so Harry's got them all trapped down there. The Molten Man is about to blow a gasket, but Harry zaps him, and of course Harry has taken in the interim, Harry took Norman's formula, found Norman's formula, and found out that the old man was tinkering with it a little bit, trying to, create a more powerful and dangerous formula. So Harry, decided to go ahead and use it for himself. Well, Harry was not the scientist or the intellect that his father was. So as you probably can surmise, no good is going to come from that.
Yep.
So anyway, so Peter is on his way. Well, how does Peter know where to go? Well, we're going to find out later. Mary Jane decides to visit Aunt May, and Aunt May says, "Oh, Mary Jane, why are you here?" "Oh, Peter and I had an argument, and you know how it is." And of course, Aunt May, being the clueless old bat that she is, just doesn't suspect a thing. But says, "Oh, by the way, Mary Jane, look at these wonderful flowers that Harry sent. Isn't that sweet?"
Nice little Ditko homage there from her first appearance.
Well, how do you know that's a Ditko homage? How do you know that's just
because
are you reading
the
something into it?
the flowers blocked her face in her first appearance, remember?
Well, I remember, but you're making quite a leap there to assume that it's an homage. Maybe it was just an artistic choice made on the spot. Anyway. Boy, so that's
I can't even have that. All right.
That's what that suffocating silence feels like, after you say something. So, well, so we go back to those crazy Osborns, Sharon, Ozzy, and Jack, and Harry and Liz.
What's Harry cook up for dinner? Looks like a steak.
Well, yeah, he cooked up steak, and he cooked up spaghetti and meatballs for Normie.
Oh, okay.
Because so it's like, well, before I get my evil plan going, I'm going to cook supper. So
how you like your steak, Molten Man? Well done.
Yeah, I forgot some. Got to go out and get some tenderizer. Better fire up the old glider. And go to the Safeway here, and so the Green Goblin goes to Safeway. So anyway, Harry continues to talk crazy. JR, you married, you should know. Well, yeah, the silence and the death glares. But actually, you know what? My wife doesn't, I really don't get the old silent treatment from my wife, because usually what happens is I usually am told that my parents were never married. My mother was a dog. Let's see here. And, and that's just those are the nice things she says about me.
All right, back at the dinner. We're eating spaghetti and steak.
It's comic book commentary / support group for.
I know. How does that make you feel? No, I don't.
Why do you see? Why do you think I've read? Why do you think a grown man reads comic books for over 50 years? It's because he can't cope with life. Because he has to have an escape. This is my escape, and my time with you is my escape. Is my therapy.
So you're excited about the spaghetti.
You're saving me $125 an hour.
Yep.
So, and meanwhile, Brad is insensitive to my emotional needs here because I'm venting, I'm sharing, and while I'm trying,
go ahead, George.
That makes me wonder just exactly. And let me give context for this. I used to play World of Warcraft a lot back in the day. Okay. And there was a feature in the game where you could type in a command. It was in the chat window. It was /played, and it would show you how long you had played on that character. And I finally did it one time with the character that I played the most, and it was over a year. I had spent over a year's worth of time in my life in that game. And that makes me wonder, like, how much of my life has been spent either reading comics or doing something comics centric. And I don't include movies, but I do include things like reading about them or talking about them or studying about them or getting ready to form on doing podcasts. But I wonder what the actual time would
half. 25 years.
I don't know if it'd be half, but I mean, I'm talking about like actual time, like by the minute, like, how many minutes like if a lawyer was going to bill me, right? Like how many hours, how many months, how many years have I wasted on comic books?
A good chunk.
It would be a good chunk. Probably a chunk I wouldn't be comfortable with.
No doubt. But you know what? It's you're doing something that you love, so that's not a wasted time.
You have to have pastimes.
Exactly.
You have to have pastimes.
Now you're never getting the time that you used to do Spider Satellites with me and those god awful books.
No,
you're not getting that time back. Neither am I.
Literally just pissed away. Never see that again. Ever. I completely wasted.
Yeah, it's a hobby.
So anyway, getting back to the story.
Oh wow! Look at that.
We're here in the first place.
That's a good impression of me.
God, So anyway, so Harry's sitting there at the table, and it's like, my father was right. My father was a great man, and he was right. That the only way to succeed in this world is power! Unbridled power! And that's what the goblin mask represents. But I won't make the same mistake my father did. I won't neglect my family. Because Harry's because my dad didn't spend enough time with me. Blah blah blah. But anyways, Norman Osborn was a crap father.
Harry's got a great line here. He's like, "I'm something of an armchair psychologist myself." Well, he doesn't say myself, but that'd be funny because his dad's got the famous line, "I'm something of a scientist."
Oh yeah.
That's a little bit later. We're getting there, George. We're getting there, George. So anyway, of course, Harry is completely losing it. He thinks that he's going to be better than his father when, that doesn't really happen. So he's being consumed just like Peter says in Peter Parker 75. He was consumed by the same madness that you are, Norman. So Spider-Man comes to the townhouse and he starts to sneak in. But before he actually gets there, we have this marvelous gatefold cover, boys and girls.
Yeah, hold
on.
This
is why you watch Spider history. This is why you go back to the actual comics.
Pretty.
Because
I loved that thing.
That's a Charles Vest. Yeah.
Yeah,
they had prints of those.
Yeah, the Hobgoblin is who he's after.
That was nice.
Okay. But anyway, this is part of the fun of actually having the comics. I mean, it's nice to get the Treasury editions and the Marvel Masterworks, and sometimes the Marvel Unlimited or whatever. Which, by the way, doesn't have some of these Marvel team ups in there or webs and all kinds of stuff. It's like you start. So here I was trying to actually spend time with my wife, going through and, while she's watching some kind of crap on TV and, I'm going through this and I say, hey, wait a minute. Web 11 and 12 isn't on here. Wait a minute. Spectacular Spider-Man 14 Annual's not on here.
I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to go on a sidetrack. I'm curious, what show is your wife watching that you're like, I can't take it. I got to read comics. So go
ahead.
What,
probably the poor woman that whatever she watches, JR goes like that.
It's SVU. Is it SVU?
It was Cruella.
Oh,
Cruella.
Okay.
Which is
like Cruella. I'd give it a B, as George says.
One of the nastiest, most evil villains, famous villains in the Disney universe, a woman who likes to skin puppies, for Christ's sake, and you try to give her a sympathetic backstory.
I hate you like nut cancer, Douglas.
Oh God. Didymus says no more sidetracks. He wants more goblin goodness. So let's go to this panel. What the heck is going on here?
Wait a minute, Didymus is like, are
Didymus,
you on the
show?
List? Are you paying for the show?
Oh.
JR's
wife is watching How to Get Away with Murder.
Okay, now wait a minute. In Didymus's defense, like when I'm listening to podcasts that aren't us, this is one of the things I hate. Like when they're not talking about content and they're like riffing, like doing like tomfoolery.
You hate it?
In his defense, I stopped listening to other podcasts because of that.
Yeah, Adam says that's the best part.
Well, it's actually I have to, and as much as I was almost going to pay Brad a compliment here. As much as
I'll take it.
As much as he's an irritant along the way, that's one of the things I like about the crawl spaces, because Brad doesn't because I mean, George is right. You'll say, oh boy, you see these topics that are going to be covered.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, topic. Oh, that's going to be a cool. And then they spend 25 minutes talking bullshit, and then by the way, here's a super chat, and
you're trying to fast forward to find out when they actually start talking about the topic.
But anyway, beautiful gatefold cover. Anyway,
real quick, Hornacek says Didymus is actually Brad typing in chat. That's pretty good.
Actually, if Didymus was actually Brad typing in the chat, there'd be horrendous misspellings. So
I can spell FU pretty good. All right, let's keep going.
Oh, should the plane come in? Do you want the plane to come in again?
Brad editing. LOL. Oh, that's
anyway,
you, George.
so Spider-Man comes in, and of course there's a giant goblin head with a machine gun.
Oh, it's the 90s, man.
And he's going, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Which actually sounds like a Pretenders song or whatever. Get you. So anyway, that was the Pretenders, wasn't it? Or another.
That's Blondie. JR. That's
Blondie.
Blondie.
Oh, no.
Holy crap.
Come on.
Okay, the eyes, the ears, the gut, the memory. They're all and the hair. What the hell has happened to my
Are you losing your hair?
Oh my God, I'm going bald.
You shaved it a month ago or whatever.
Yeah.
3 months ago.
But that's different than having age take it away. Anyway, so Spider-Man finally gets into the room where everybody is and where everybody's having dinner. And of course, Harry, it's like, you dare come here? And Spider-Man says, well, come on, you knew I was coming. That's why you set up the whole stupid goblin with the machine gun thing. Oh yeah, I guess you got a point there.
Did he make Spider-Man a plate?
Well, of course he did. He tells him to sit down and eat.
Oh, yeah, he did. He made a mistake. He made Spider-Man a steak. Look at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Kind of like Tommy Lee Jones did with Armin Zola in the Captain America movie or whatever. I gave you steak. But anyway.
Spider-Man starts eating it too. He's like,
so,
it's not
and yes,
poison.
and on the next page.
Meat is meat.
Harry goes, I'm something of an amateur psychologist. So there it is. There's the line.
Is this it right here?
Next panel.
Next panel. Okay. Yeah, I had kind of jumped ahead in the story when I was.
Oh, yeah, that's wow. JMD Mateus wrote that back in '93. Look at that.
So Harry's
92. I forget which one.
92. This is 92.
Yeah, 92. Yeah.
We are 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
This was the 30th anniversary of Spider-Man.
We're in the 60th.
And this year is the 60th anniversary.
Are you going to be around for the 90th? What is the 90th anniversary of Spider-Man going to look like?
Oh man, it's going to be 2050 or whatever. Oh, I ain't going to
look like Ava and Spencer and
I'll be 80.
And Carol.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be like the next generation.
Yeah, it'll be the next generation crawl space.
Wow.
So Harry's trying to get into Peter's head. He's trying to, because you're like me, you were abandoned by your parents, and you've always hated the Osborns because we had family. We were together, and you've been jealous of us, and that's why you've tried to drag us down into that miserable hell of yours. But I am a family man. And you look around, look at all these happy people. And of course, Raxton has about enough of it.
Hey, Brad, go back to that panel where he's like, go back a few panels.
Okay. That one?
No.
Spidey?
Yeah. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, that's literally your best friend.
Right.
What does that even mean? Like literally, he's like been your best friend since college.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
well, partly I guess because Harry right now is spewing such nonsense that it's like, Harry's created the Harry that he's talking to has created a fantasy about what Peter's life was like, and it's like I don't know. I'm trying to explain that. I suppose not doing a very good job of it, but
you could just say it. You could just say it's off base and agree with me, and say that George is right and move on.
Boy, let's see. George is right. George is right.
I mean, you've said it before, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Sometimes it creates.
He never says I'm right.
Well, I know, because that would finally.
Shut up.
I'd go into cardiac arrest if I tried to say that. So
clear.
So anyway, so Raxton loses it, and he and Harry starting to get into it, and Peter says, "That's enough. That's enough, Harry. It's going to be. Let's go mano y mano. All right, me and you, and I'm going to kick your ass."
He
but
doesn't say that, but
well, he said, "We're leaving, Harry. You're coming with me. I'm getting you help." Well, yeah, that's close enough.
All right.
So. Anyway, so Liz gets into the picture, and Liz says, "Oh, look what you're doing to our son. You're crazy." And Harry says, "Normie, do you think Daddy's crazy? Which is, that sounds like a conversation I've kind of had more than once with my kids. You think your old man's crazy, and let's say yeah. I guess that explains their stunned silence when they get the question. Maybe they, anyways. But of course, Normie says, "Dad, you're not crazy. You're not crazy at all." Then as Spider-Man approaches Harry, tries to talk some sense into him. Harry decides to bring back the old comic trope of the glider flying into Spider-Man, which of course Spider-Man says, well, brings back a flashback of, Norman getting impaled. And of course, the irony here, of course, is that Norman's not dead, which is kind of the fun little subtlety hanging over this is Harry's, constantly, you killed my father. Well, he ain't dead, kid. Well, Peter takes the glider in the back, just kind of like Ben Reilly did several years later. Well, of course, Harry now is claiming, now because he's on a strength level with Spider-Man, he thinks that, oh yeah, wait a minute, what did he just say? Norman Osborn is still alive. Idiot, you thought you were rid of my father, but Norman Osborn is still alive. More so than you know, Harry. And so, Harry kicks Peter around a little bit and thinks he's done something, and after Harry says, "Long live the Green Goblin," nope.
He done.
that you're done. I've had it.
It's another good Buscema power hit.
Oh yeah, there's one where the head's tilted back on one of them. We just saw it. I did, but yeah, it's classic Buscema in this all day long. Love it. Yep, look at him just fight. So pretty. Look at that.
Yeah, he always has beautiful fights.
Yep.
But anyway, after Harry trying to get into Peter's head and trying to make him feel guilty about how he's done things and conducted his life, blah blah blah, Spider-Man finally, and this is what this always shows. This shows how much Spider-Man is always holding back. Because one punch, he's finally had it. One punch.
Oh yeah, here it is. There's that the head knocked out. That's a big old punch from Buscema.
Yeah, and
look at that.
So much so that Harry cracks the door.
Love it. Oh yeah, he cracks the door. He dents the wall of the door. Yeah,
he hits him
that's
so
a big
hard.
punch.
So which kind of reminds me, going back to issue number 137, when Harry first becomes a goblin. He's not super powered at that time, and Harry kidnaps Splash, Mary Jane, and Aunt May and threatens to blow one of them up. Just before Spider-Man goes looking for the bomb or whatever, he clocks Harry, and he says, "Osborn, you're lucky, because if I didn't pull my punch, you'd be dead."
Yeah.
So, but so anyway, the thing is, again, very few people should be able to hold up against Spider-Man, particularly an enraged Spider-Man, particularly not a bunch of sodbusters from 1692, but that was last month. So anyway, so he webs Harry up. They call the cops, but of course, he's just carrying all this anger and rage, and you just know he's going to be a psychopathic little bastard.
I'm going to get you in Spider-Girl.
Yeah, and not only that, but I'm going to get you, and I'm going to wear a Carnage suit, I'm going to go to your Aunt May's, and I'm going to threaten to kill her because she puts raisins in her cookies. So anyway, the Shield, SWAT, the coppers come to take Harry away, and Harry says, "I want to say one little thing. I know who Spider-Man is."
Ooh.
But I'm not going to tell anybody.
No, that's not what he says. He says the opposite.
I'm going to tell the world.
I'm going to tell the world.
Well, but not just yet.
But not just yet. Yep.
And
that was cool.
And that leads us into they take him away in the paddy wagon.
Yeah.
And that is
what a good cliffhanger.
So wait, Brad, go back.
Yeah. What?
Go back again. Look, they lock him up in there inside with a chud. A cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. classic film Chud. Which I think came out like 5 years before that, 5 or 6 years.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah, Hornacek, even though Harry has equal strength to Peter, I don't think Peter, I mean, well, does he have the fighting skills? No, he doesn't. He's not a fighter, Peter. But Peter, I don't, Peter isn't, I mean, when Peter is enraged, he can take out just about, I mean, he and Norman, he can take, if he wanted to kill Norman, he would have a long time ago. I mean, when Spider-Man gets mad, I mean, he took out Firelord, right? Remember that? You guys like that? He took out Firelord.
He's taking out teams of X-Men.
That's right. So I don't think, I mean, they're only equal because Peter goes down to their level. If Spider-Man were to truly exhibit all of his strength, I don't know that either Goblin could stand against him.
There's also something to say. Sorry, Brad. I know you're trying to. Okay. I know you want to read a chat, but I want to work this in. I'm sorry.
No problem.
But no, there's also something to be said for the crazy factor. Like even though like Harry may have the Goblin formula in him, and he's actually like physically in the same range as Spider-Man. He's also, what makes him dangerous in that situation is that he's crazy. He's nuts. There's nothing holding him back at that point. All right, sorry, Brad. I'm sorry.
Gary in the Frozen wants to know: did we ever do Firelord Spider-Man fight on History?
Haven't done
not on History, but we've done it on Friday Night Fights.
Yeah. Matt Bird also wants to know, why is it that every Marvel hero has an ongoing next generation of their offspring saving the day? Well, except for Spider-Man, right or wrong?
Are we talking about who's the next generation?
Well, Harry. Offspring? I mean, Harry is the next generation going after Spider-Man, I guess is what he's talking about.
Well, he's like, every Marvel hero has an ongoing next generation of their offspring, or at least I think he's talking about specifically like legacy characters. In this case, with Spider-Man, throw a rock out a window. Spider-Gwen, Ben Reilly, Miles Morales. He's got more than most people.
He does. Yeah. With the exception of Batman, or he's probably got more than Batman, but Batman has so many legacy characters hanging around him. But all right, fast forward about 11 issues, we go to Spec 200 is when this fight resumes, huh?
Well, actually, it does. But the following issue of Spectacular, Harry is in it after he's been taken away, and we find out that he has paid the Rhino to go after Peter Parker.
I love that fight.
And the Rhino, that's another one that says, you don't F with Spider-Man. Because the Rhino goes after Peter Parker and says, "I know your dirty secret." Well, Peter, of course, thinks that he's talking about that he knows he's Spider-Man. So he changes to Spider-Man, and he just literally beats the Rhino to within an inch of his life and threatens to kill the Rhino. And after he threatens to kill the Rhino admits that I don't even know what the heck this is, what the secret means or whatever. I was just paid by the Green Goblin to go after Peter Parker. I'm just trying to make a few bucks for my family, and then like the panel, it's like right now they're like in a deep hole or whatever, and you don't see them. You just see the captions, and then you see pow. And the next one is, you should have thought about Peter Parker's family. So, I mean, again, another great example of why you don't F with Spider-Man. And a lot of the writers seem to have forgotten how strong he is, at
some point, I mean, like, it took a sharp nosedive during like Brand New Day. It really did. I think there was like an emphasis in Brand New Day to make him like, I think that was part of the rebooting that they wanted to do is, make him a little more, or a little less tough, a little less formidable. I think it was a mix of that and the fact that, they played him off as just like a complete clueless, stupid idiot a lot of the time. Yeah. Who was also, they also dematured him quite a bit as well. For the longest time, he seemed like a kind of a selfish man-child.
Well, that's how Marvel wants him to be. I mean, they want him to be a man-child. For delusional reasons. And I've never understood this because there are so many young heroes now in the Marvel universe. he fit that. I mean, back in the 60s when he was a teenager, and all the other heroes, they were the fantastic, except for Johnny. Johnny was teenagers. But I mean, you had the Avengers, whatever. You had the old guard, and you had Spider-Man, the hot-headed teenager, or the hot-headed young college student, young man. But anyway, that's how he fit. That's where he fit, But then Marvel flooded their universe with all these young heroes. So, like, what's the point of why does Spider-Man have to be young? He does, you don't need Spider-Man. Hell, you got Miles Morales, for Christ's sake, now. Spider-Gwen, Silk, you got all these young heroes. Spider-Man Peter Parker does not have to be a kid. But Joe Quesada, and Brevoort or whatever, had this delusion that that's the secret of his popularity, that he's about youth, that Spider-Man represents youth. No, he doesn't. And he doesn't need to. But anyway, that's another.
What does he represent? Responsibility?
Responsibility. And the hero who could be you.
We pointed that out because Brevoort put that in the manifesto, that the whole point of Spider-Man is youth. And we were like, well, actually, if you've read Spider-Man, you know that the whole point of Spider-Man is responsibility. It's not youth. Mm-hmm. It's not at all youth.
It's putting aside what's best for you for what's best for everybody else, for humanity.
Not to play devil's advocate or Mephisto's advocate, but when he was bitten and he learned responsibility was at a young age. So youth is tied into the learning of that lesson.
No,
you don't think so?
No, it's not at all.
No. Why?
Not at all. Look at the other times that, like, he's wanted to quit, and look at other times that he has quit. They haven't all been when he was young. And he comes back because of responsibility, Brad. Well, I'm sorry, you're off base. You're wrong.
Well, youth can also be college. Does that not tie? Is being in college not youthful?
Sure, Brad.
Well, what we're saying is whatever.
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to wrap my head around the argument. Okay. Like Spider-Man has the oldest in continuity he's ever been is married, right? And the majority of the time pre-87, when you think of college, you think of kids. You think of when he was 15, bitten by the spider, he was in high school, etc. So pre-87, for what X amount of years, he was tied into being a young hero.
He was. But he also was the hero who could be you. The hero who could be you grows up. He gets married. He takes his own responsibilities. He has children. Right. And when you bring in a flood of younger heroes,
it ages him. Yes, I agree.
But that's the point. You don't need him to be young anymore
because you've got the next generation of heroes.
Exactly. So, why does he have to be? Why does Spider-Man have to be young? He doesn't have to be. Not anymore.
It's the Charlie Brown syndrome. It's the kid syndrome. The corporate people want him to be tied into being young, even though they bring in even younger kids into the mix. I guess I understand.
Does that make sense? And besides, Charlie Brown is a neurotic adult in the body of an 8.
And he lost.
I remember once, Joe Quesada, one of his idiotic Charlie Brown doesn't grow up. Bart Simpson doesn't grow up. Well, of course not, because they're adults. They're adults in kids' bodies. I mean, come on. That's what they're commentaries on adult behavior. They're commentaries, on.
Calvin and Hobbes is the same thing. It's it's his creator talking to a kid.
Yeah. So they're not really ageless children. They're some of those conversations that Linus and Charlie Brown have are
very deep. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they are.
So
they're very deep.
Again, it's an argument doesn't wash. But anyway, I guess I'd better go to Spectacular Spider-Man number.
Why? Yes, you should.
Well, so anyway, Spectacular Spider-Man, and I remember.
Too. This one didn't have a hologram on the cover. It had a foil. Those webs were foil, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, foil. And it was compared to the actually they were both the same, $2.95 for each one. So $2.95 got you a hologram cover, and $2.95 got you a foil cover.
Oh my gosh, on the back of that, is that for Crunch and Munch cards?
Absolutely.
I still have a box sealed. 30-year-old box of Crunch and Munch. I still have that. I'm scared to open it.
Why don't you open it? Why would you open it? Sell it on eBay. My God, somebody will probably.
Nobody's going to buy a box of Crunch. I don't want to sell it.
That's why you have a Patreon episode. Have a Patreon episode where Brad opens and eats the 30-year-old.
I got a box of Sal Buscema.
Patreon.
Spider-Man cereal from the 90s still sealed. I'm not going to eat a bowl of that on Patreon.
No, you
I'll
can't
die.
sell it on eBay.
Have a
People will buy
special
it.
have a special Patreon episode where people pay to watch that specific episode.
They want to pay to watch me choke on 30-year-old cereal.
That's why people will pay.
But I don't want to eat it.
But so people will pay to see that. Think of your family.
No, that's
Think
true.
of, it's like,
dance for me, Douglas. Yeah.
See if Brad dies from eating this old food. I mean,
what the hell?
You'll be able to put Ava through college with the money you raise on that.
Or by selling it on eBay.
I like my idea better.
Brad, don't eat 30.
I'm not going to eat it. I'm good.
On a Patreon. I don't want you to die.
Thank you.
Unlike JR.
I love you. I love you, Texas.
No one, I wanted to have a Patreon account for Ashley, episode where Ashley gives birth. Wanted to put that on Patreon.
Whoa.
Don't you remember? I kept saying have a special Patreon episode for when Ashley has her baby. And you discarded that idea like it was a stupid, idiotic idea from a raving old man.
So it had a foil cover.
I regret
$2.95. All this because of Crunch and Munch. By the way, I like Crunch and Munch.
Now, see, you can't blame me for that because he tangented by talking about Crunch and Munch.
I did.
All right. So anyway, spectacular.
Hold on.
I just remember.
Hold on real quick. Our friend Bruce has come through. Bruce has informed me that I cannot put anybody through college with a box of Crunch and Munch for $15.
Oops.
That's not even getting a textbook.
Wow.
That's why the
funny.
hook of the episode needs to be him opening it and eating it.
No.
Oh, do you remember on the back of that box of Crunch and Munch, you could order the Ron Lim poster? Oh, I had that poster. I remember this. Thank you, Bruce.
You're making Brad sound like Judge Smales' nephew or whatever in Caddyshack.
Oh my gosh, this was 99 cents.
And the caddies at one point are like $50 said the Smales kid eats it. You're making him sound like Spalding. You're making him sound like Spalding.
Anyway, Matt Bird wanted to follow up. We didn't quite understand his question. He said, no, what I meant was every Marvel hero has offspring, has an existing story. Why can't we readers have a respectful, responsible, ongoing Mayday series? Well, it didn't sell. I mean, it was canceled 2 or 3 times. The fans kept bringing it back. But now, I mean, so one, it's like if it had sold, if she was a top 10, top 20 seller, they would have continued to publish it. So there's that economic reality. But now I think they want to forget that she exists because
they also weren't encouraged to market it in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
And it could be argued very easily that they actually didn't like Spider-Girl's popularity. I know I could tell you for a fact Quesada didn't like the fact that she was popular. And didn't want people thinking about that like a married Spider-Man out there.
Why do you say that?
Because
it made him old?
He flat hated the marriage. I mean, that was part of the CBR thing. He was like, I used to have an uncle and he was cool and he got married and he wasn't cool anymore.
And giving him a kid makes him feel
and I was like, dude, it's just it's ridiculous. But yeah, so they weren't pressed to like or they didn't feel compelled in any way to market that book in a way that might increase its sales or to especially like marketing specifically to a subset of readers. There was none of that. They just put it out there for the fans that were reading it, and then that was it. And they didn't really want to promote it in any sort of meaningful way because they wanted it to go away. And I think another part of the reason they wanted it to go away is so that Quesada could bring in Aranya, his own little creation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was another part of the reason why he wanted it gone.
Oh, and Kelly is making an appearance and says, well, she's correcting me, saying he was canceled only once, or she was canceling once, but threatened more than once. So
threatened more than once.
I stand corrected. So sort of corrected, partially corrected, because I wasn't entirely wrong. I was only partially wrong.
Find more things to tell Brad and Jared they're wrong about Kelly.
So.
All right, so the goblin's flying.
All right.
Good
all right,
Lord.
we're going to try. We're going to try our 3rd or 4th time to get this going. Anyway, so Harry is now in the goblin outfit, and he's flying around, and he sees Mary Jane, and he scoops up Mary Jane, says, "We have to talk," and so. So what horrible fate now? What horrible fate does Harry have planned for Mary Jane? I mean, he wouldn't take her to the bridge, would he? I mean, we don't go to the bridge often enough, do we? George is right. Don't say that, Kelly. George is right.
George is right. Make it a hashtag.
Hashtag George is right.
Jeez. Anyway, but while Mary Jane, is about to, take a ride on the Goblin Glider in more ways than one, I guess.
Stop it.
Stop.
What?
That's not what happens.
This is me with a JR doll.
We need a gong show, like a thing we can do whenever JR goes off the reservation.
Oh yeah, I need like a little bell, like
or
a
a little buzzer,
yeah.
ding, 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 or some kind of remote shock collar around JR that we can activate.
Wait a minute, Adam Winchell. JR needs corrected more. Hang on a second here.
Oh no, Adam, you made the list tonight. How many people have been added to the list? You haven't been on the show in 3 months, and you've added 2 people to the list.
There we go.
That's a 10, 15-year-old list.
There we go, everybody. You see Adam. That? Adam Winchell. All right.
Poor Adam. The club meets on Thursdays at 2.
I was about to say an AA meets. That's where I need to go, I think. Anyway, so Peter is now, how did Harry get out of jail? Well, they didn't have anything to hold him on, because there's no law against being a rich eccentric who likes to dress in a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Which essentially I think is about what they say. So anyway, so Peter has gone to Liz, and Liz is just, I mean, I think, you can tell that Liz has,
Liz has lost it.
I think she's taken a helpful helping of Valium.
Look at that whole family. There's breaking a Spider-Man doll in the back. Liz looks like she's on pain meds.
Kill the spider, break his back. Kill the spider, break his back.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez, I mean, this is one seriously demented little boy, and like I said, Liz has cranked up her medication to 1,000 or whatever. So
look at this poor woman. I mean, can you imagine?
And so little Normie is doing his impersonation of George Bush. It's bad. Spider-Man's bad. So
it's a 30-year-old comic with a 30-year-old joke. It's what it is. I mean,
didn't you guys watch
George
Saturday
Bush senior jokes, JR? I mean, come on. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, so anyway, but as we all guessed, the Goblin Harry is flying Mary Jane to the bridge.
Oh, that's where you kill girlfriends, right?
Which is just not a Billy Joel album, by the way. But
oh my gosh.
So Mary Jane says, "All right, Harry. If you're going to want me to, going to want me to do the Gwen Stacy swan dive, get it over with right now.
That's why I love Mary Jane.
Just pick me up and pitch me over, and then listen to my screams on the way down. Just hoist me in your arms and just throw me like a softball right out there. Try to throw me over the. See that boat out there, Harry? See if you can hit that boat with me. Just do it. And then Harry says, "Oh, Mary Jane, you hurt me so bad." Oh, hey, Comet gave us a $1.99 super sticker. What the hell is this?
I know. I was waiting for you to finish. I was going to thank Comet, but don't get distracted like Squirrel, okay? Like I do.
But this is money. Someone put
Comet.
Money in your lap. We have to acknowledge that.
I also, since we've gone off track again, I'm going to thank Diabetic Superman says he's keeping quiet. He doesn't want to be on JR's list. So
you don't have to be quiet. You just don't have to. Just don't engage in these ruthless, horrible, demeaning insults that harm my very sensitive soul.
Listen. JR's in the early stages of onset dementia, and so saying nothing at this point could put you on the list.
Anyway, thank you, Comet, for the super sticker.
Okay, so Harry says, "Oh, Mary Jane, I would never throw you off a bridge. I'd probably think of something more creative, but that's not the point right now." It's like, "No, I love you, and I love Aunt May, and I love every member of Peter's family, except I hate Peter." And which actually, I think this is the issue where that when Nick Spencer looked like he was actually going to be allowed to tell his story, didn't he go back to this? Literally this page or panel, and where he refers to Peter as Mary Jane's husband. Because it's so Mary Jane says, "Oh no, we all love you, including Peter," and he does not, and of course he did not. Norman Osborn did not kill. He said, "Well, Norman was involved. My dad was involved in Gwen's death," and Mary Jane says, "No, he he killed Gwen." So, with that, which is kind of the event, which part of what drove Harry off the rocker. He and Gwen had been friends for a very, very long time, and I think just part of having to face that his father had done such a horrible thing helped push him over. But anyway, so Harry says he's brought her here to assure her that he means her no harm, and he'll do her no harm. He'll just kill her husband. So then, of course, Spider-Man is looking for Harry right now, and he's really kind of stoked up. He comes across these two punks stealing something, and he's just decides to put the fear of Jesus into him, and causes one kid to pretty well, need to change his underwear before the night is over. So
look at that poor guy. Man.
Yeah, I would say that his spine cracked right there.
Yeah, that looks like a Gwen Stacy crack.
That looks like that would. That looks like you're going to be spending a lot of time in traction. So
potentially, yeah.
So
poor guy.
I guess that's creative license. So Spider-Man goes back home to the loft in Soho, and there's Harry's right there, and he clocks Harry, but of course Mary Jane says, "Oh, no, don't do that." And they try to talk some sense into Harry, but Harry is not having it.
Oh my gosh, look how many cigs Mary Jane has smoked over here. Holy cow. That's a carton, isn't it?
I was about to say that was probably George, didn't you used to do that in the
I did. Looking at that ashtray, that's probably 2 packs.
That's 2 packs of this
poor
woman.
2 packs, yeah.
Her poor lungs.
Oh. So, and
I used to back when I smoked 2 packs a day.
Yeah. So, not
2 packs, not 2 packs after some creep kidnaps me and I'm only there for half an hour, but over the course of like an entire day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So your smoking would increase if you were kidnapped by a guy in a green goblin suit, right?
If I had the smokes, if he let me, yeah, I'd be like, every one of these can be my last. Yeah, can you mind, Jack? Yeah, all right. I don't want to, I don't want to skunk up your drapes, but
yeah, skunk up your drape.
The thing.
All right, let's get back to these three.
Yeah,
Harry looks like Nixon. Look at that. He looks like Richard Nixon from the side.
I am not a crook. I am not a goblin.
Except that I am literally right now a crook.
Actually, there's like a little bit of Ray Liotta in there too, I think.
It's like Ray Liotta. Yeah, it's like Ray Liotta and Nixon had a love child.
Mary Jane, I can smell you through this mask.
And maybe a little Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, I don't care.
It's not so much the smoke. I never really had a problem with people smoking. I figure, you want to poison yourself, go right ahead. We all do it in various ways. But what I can't stand is when they go to the convenience store and buy the cigarettes. Because it takes them longer to pick out to get them than it does to smoke them. I'll take the Marlboro Lights. Or, no, not that one. No, that one. No, that one over there. It's like, get your, I miss the convenience. They used to have these, like at the gas station. They used to have these vending machines.
George,
and you would get your cigarettes that away, and you wouldn't stand in line.
Get on track.
We need to get him a shock collar.
Let me get a remote here.
We need to get him a shock collar that we can remotely activate, and it'll jolt him back on track.
You're talking about cigarettes at gas station. Get back on track.
It's like
Mary Jane, you can just walk into a store.
It's like stop taking so much time in front of the counter, and then the same idiots buy lottery tickets. Anyway,
JR is going to vent for about 3 more minutes about cigs and gas stations. I'm putting him in timeout for just a minute.
I like a good rant. I like a good rant as much as the next guy. All right, but when I'm already tired and we're trying to, we still got a whole issue to go.
And the old man just goes on for 3 minutes.
The old man is like, "Right, day, you can just walk into a store and get the smokes." You better bring him back in here before he leaves.
Okay. Are you okay?
This right here.
Oh no, you are not putting me on the list. You are not putting me on the list.
Brad got listed.
George needs to be on the list too.
Whoa!
I sound
what
like
did George do?
I sound like we're brothers.
What did George do? George
did it
didn't kick him
too.
out.
Oh,
George didn't kick him out off the
Oh.
screen.
All right.
Yeah,
That
but
wasn't George.
Well, we'll talk about your silly little comic books. All right. All right. So Harry goes and
Yeah, I don't want to be on the list. I didn't do anything.
You got George scared.
So Harry goes and flies off on his glider or whatever, and Mary
on the
Jane
list.
starts smoking again. And actually, Peter complains about, Mary Jane, would you put that stinking cigarette out? And Mary Jane says, no, I'm not, because I stood in front of the convenience store or at the counter for half an hour picking them out. No, I'm not going to stop smoking. And now here's an interesting little conversation they have because she tells Peter that maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea if the world knows you're Spider-Man. Then Harry can't hold it over your head anymore. So, it's one of those things that when it happened in Civil War, Peter has thought about this before. It has been brought up before. The next, I have my own enemies list. Jack Anderson.
Wow.
It was. Jack Anderson was on his enemies list. But anyway.
I know. I'm just saying. That's a reference that two people on here got.
So, but anyway, it's one of those things that, people would say, oh, Peter would never, blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, it has been considered. He has considered it before. And but I just kind of find interesting, that it has been brought up. I mean, how could in fact, that was one of the things that infuriated Norman when Peter held the press conference. It's like, you broke the rules,
Mm-hmm.
So, but now, of course, Peter and Mary Jane, make up a little bit, but Liz has popped another Valium, and Harry has come in. But George, what's Harry got?
With the Norman crazy sweats.
The crazy sweats.
Not
crazy sweats.
Osborn sweats.
This is how my forehead looks after I eat meat.
Everybody, that the end.
Oh, I snorted. Good God, Ashley, did you hear that? Osborn sweats.
Are you talking about? Wait a minute. When Ashley snorts, it's just a laugh. I mean, but when is it like you're not talking?
I decreased the oxygen in my mind now.
Brad just snorted and made himself laugh.
Well, why the hell not? I'm on a list. I don't care.
So, anyway, the end is near. When Harry, the end is near now.
Oh, the sweats.
So,
let's look at the kid. Yeah.
And just, I got to admit, Al, again, Sal, you can tell both these people are nuts in their own way. He just perfectly captured just how both these people are losing their minds.
No doubt.
So then, Harry decides to start following Peter.
I think
around
Liz
town.
is going through like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. Driving him crazy in various ways.
Yeah, look, she's getting abused here. Look at this poor woman. Oh,
well, the son has become the father.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Liz. Is an awful person. Liz is literally a terrible character.
Wait a minute. Why is Liz bad?
Oh, we've been over this before.
Don't you remember that conversation we had during the Mackie Byrne era or whatever, when Liz, when Peter's down on his luck or whatever, Liz walked by him and said, "I don't want to be near you, Peter. You bring death to everyone around you."
It's not just that. Liz is just a basically vile person. But
maybe it's from the abuse that she has to take by being in the Osborn family.
But here at the same time, she is. I mean, give her credit. She is trying to go along, probably to trying to make sure Harry doesn't carry off their kid.
Yeah.
So give her a few props for that. Or she could be acting that way to save her own damn skin because she's an awful person.
Was she awful before the Byrne? I mean, the Mackie Byrne stuff?
She was always messing with Peter's head when they were in high school.
Yeah, but she's a kid on that.
Oh, there we go. Get out my violin. You know.
Oh Lord. Anyway, Goblin sneaks up
all
on
right. Anyway,
Pete.
so Harry's doing little things to drive Peter bonkers or whatever,
Yep.
and following him around and everything. But so then we go to our friend Jolly Jonah Jameson, and Harry is there, full Goblin regalia, and he wants to put out a story. He wants to talk about this new charitable foundation, the Norman Osborn Foundation, where all kinds of good is going to come from. Because when you think of the name Norman Osborn, you think of great humanitarian deeds. You know, I mean, after all, why our hero? How often do I say our hero, Norman Osborn?
You do.
Yep. So he's going to start this foundation. And actually, I enjoyed this kind of these 2 pages, because the thing with Spider-Man, even in serious moments, there's always humor, you know, and I really like it. Like, for example, when Jonah is when Harry's doing all his crazy rant and he's trying to light Jonah's cigar, it's like, stop shaking or I'll never get this thing lit. You know, and then when Jonah. And then when Jonah, that's funny. And just that little aside there, stop shaking. And then when Jonah hides behind Peter or whatever, and Harry says, well, Peter was, my dad was such a great guy. He let Peter live in live in an apartment for free or whatever, because after all, you certainly didn't pay much. So,
that's good. That was good.
So it was little digs there. But then Harry says, and we're going to have this big press conference at my townhouse about the Osborn Foundation. Oh, by the way, Jonah, if you show up, I might have a little bit of interesting information about your old pal Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
So what does Pete do after he's threatened?
He goes to eat pizza.
He grabs a slice, you know?
Absolutely. This is New York. I mean, pizza places are all over the place.
Get you a slice, Pete.
99 cent. I was in 99-cent pizza, $1.99 pizza, depending on what you want or whatever. There's I've even been to Joe's Pizza.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Does he still have the guarantee? It's free.
I don't recall the guarantee. In fact, he changed locations, but there are pictures. There are pictures of like Toby with the hat, with the helmet, and carrying the bunch of pizzas or whatever. So he's
pass.
So anyway, Peter's eating pizza, and of course Harry comes by again just to kind of irritate him. And of course they go to the rooftop and have a little exchange. And Harry says, eventually I'm going to kill you. Not right now, maybe not tomorrow, whatever, but eventually I'm going to kill you. But I'm just going to drive you out of your friggin' mind first. And then Harry goes home. Well, it's on for a little bit, but Harry decides no, he's not going to let Peter beat the crap out of him now. He's got too many things to do first. And George is so tired. Boy, part of me almost feels guilty about George being up past his bedtime, but I got over that real quick.
No, I mean, normally I'm at work at 7 a.m. because I'm working from home. Normally I'm at work at 7 a.m. So yeah, this is way past my bedtime.
This is how much George enjoys our company.
Well, I mean, at the end of the last episode, I did specifically request, hey, I'm tired.
But we pull you back in.
And Brad was like, no, I'm not letting you rest or sleep.
Anyway, we go to our hero.
Anyway.
Our hero. And this is another, this was another couple of pages I really enjoyed, because to me, this was an illustration of just how evil Norman Osborn is and was, even though he was dead. I mean, his evil, it's almost like you could take his evil and put Ashley Kafka in there with him, and then she might become Queen Goblin. But no, that's such a stupid ass idea that nobody would ever think of that. But anyway, so Harry's he's talking to his family, and Liz says, "Oh, this is a wonderful idea, Harry, that you're doing for people. You're going to help all kinds of people, and I've got to do it, honey, for Normie and for him."
Go back to that panel of him, Brett. Look at those eyebrows. He's got like those McFarlane Eddie Brock eyebrows.
Yep.
Yeah, and just that smile on his face, just that wonderful Osborn smile,
thick like a filled sausage tubing.
Oh gosh.
And then Harry's there, and after Liz and Harry, or Liz goes wherever Liz goes, and little Normie's there sleeping, and Harry is drinking to his old man.
Oh, here's to you,
his,
Dad.
Holds up a glass to his old man.
Lord.
It's like, oh, these people are going to come. All these people who spurned us and spit in our faces. And I'm going to bring them all here. And I'm going to kill them all. And I'll blow the place up. And then they'll know that there's a new, more dangerous, evil Green Goblin in town. But I won't do the thing you did, Dad. I won't forget my family.
Mike Murdoch, who's on the list, getting your portrait painted like that, you can't even smile. Well, he's Norman Osborn. He doesn't need to smile. The world smiles at him.
I was trying to think. Was Willem Dafoe smiling in that big portrait that we
saw?
Yeah. Don't you remember a couple of, like in Spider-Man 3, they walk by it's just this big portrait of Willem Dafoe, and you just kind of get shivers, and you think, boy, it'd just be great if he could come back as a Green Goblin for just one more movie.
Well, he did.
Wait a minute. Why does Kelly correct once again about Peter Palmer? You know what? You're already on. I guess it's
Kelly kind of agrees with me. She's an awful person now, but I think she was decent during this run at least. So Kelly is kind of agreeing with me a little bit because I don't think she's that evil. But
we didn't say evil. We just said she was an awful person, Brad. There's a difference.
Like
there's
Betty
a difference
Branson
between a piece of a crap person and a killing maniac. There's a difference. There's a very distinct difference.
Yeah. Well, anyway, here she is.
Jonah's not a murderer, but he's a piece of shit.
Here she is crocheting with a smoking Mary Jane.
Yeah, and Mary Jane tries to talk sense into her, and how are you going to sit there smiling like Donna Reed? Do we need to explain who Donna Reed is, everybody? I mean, probably not. We've tangent.
That was an old reference 30 years ago.
So, anyway, Liz won't, Liz says, well, Mary Jane, you're not going to be able to talk sense into me. I'm just going to continue to live in denial, and I'll be in denial for a long time. And then I'll, become head of Oscorp, and I'll be a terrible boss. And then Norman will finally, kick my ass out just like on the street like I deserve. But anyway, I digress. She says, leave Mary Jane. You're worse than Spider-Man.
Oh, good grief. Oh, now, Kelly, I got my crocheting wrong. It's embroidery, she says. Okay. I got that wrong, too. Okay. You can't win.
Kelly, say Brad was wrong.
No.
Brad was wrong. And put it in.
We lost him again. Unfortunately, the man. Oh, okay. Welcome back. Thank you very much.
It's like, what, you're treating me like I'm a lunatic.
If you had disconnected me as many times, because you've done it to me in the past as well.
I have.
And if you've done it to me as many times in one night as you've done it to Joe, I wouldn't have come back. I wouldn't. That's me though. That's why I said earlier you may want to bring him back in before he didn't come back.
I'm just playing.
I wouldn't. I mean, like I'd have been done.
All right, here you go.
I haven't agreed to come back for the reviews when the. Hey, thank you. It's not in caps, but I'll take it. Brad was wrong. All right.
Wait, she's writing in caps. I can't.
Thank you, Kelly. Next time, maybe the next time he's wrong, we'll get tattoos that'll say it. But
meanwhile,
anyway.
Spider-Man swinging across the city.
Yeah, Spider-Man swinging across the street. He's gonna, but basically, he says, I can't let this madness go on. Harry and I, we got to hash this out once and for all. So Harry's back at his townhouse. Mary Jane comes in, tries to talk some sense into him, just like she tried to talk some sense into Liz. But Harry's too far gone. Harry says all that matters is power. That's all people understand. That's all people respect. I was weak for so long, and now I've got the power of the Green Goblin, and I'm going to use it.
And
Mary Jane. We
have the sweats. We got the sweats.
Go home, my dear old friend. It's too late for love. So, well,
here, I got that panel you just said. Go home. It's too late for love.
It is too late for love. It sounds like a bad song.
It's a Def Leppard song, and it's actually pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah, Def Leppard has a song called "Too Late for Love." It's actually,
wow, okay.
Yeah, it's actually very, very good.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
The old junior high kid, the old junior high version of me that listened to Def Leppard when Def Leppard was actually was huge. And wore his, Union Jack British flag tank top shirt around.
The only one I know is "Pour Some Sugar on Me." That's the only Def Leppard song I know.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
What's another one? What's her name?
Dude, Photograph.
Oh, Photograph's good.
Rock of Ages. They had a shit ton of hits, Brad.
Yeah. I probably have heard them. Yeah.
Besides the fact that they couldn't hear. I mean, after all.
Oh, the Def Leopards. Okay.
All right.
By the way, now people in chat are saying Brad was wrong. And what look what you've started. Look you've started. Oh,
I was about to say here, you know what? I may have like a good list and a bad list. You know,
what, you gonna put me on both of them now?
Well, no, the people who are saying that you were wrong are probably on the good list.
Oh,
you know,
gosh.
Like the good place and the bad place. You know, I mean the good list and the bad list. So anyway, so Harry sees that Peter is coming, or Spider-Man is coming, and of course he flips out, changes to the Goblin, and the next several pages are Peter and Harry having their hashing things out, and Harry decided Brad was wrong. Does that mean he's Asian?
Oh no, I work with Dr. Strange now, evidently. Yeah.
JR is right. Brick 2. All right, you're on the good list.
No way.
The good list. So Harry drugs Peter. So because Harry decides that, you know what, Peter, we're just too poison. We're too toxic for the people around us. We should both go up in a big explosion and go to that supervillain hangout in the sky. You know, and so he finally, he sets the bomb off, or actually he sets the timer. Mary Jane winds up again. Well, actually, little Normie wakes up.
Right.
And Mary Jane decides to try to talk Harry out of his madness. And of course, not knowing what Harry has set in motion. So Harry realizes, oh, and my son. So he saves Mary Jane and Normie, gets him out of there. And then Mary Jane says, you left Peter in there to die? You left my husband in there to die? And Harry is conflicted, but he goes after Peter and he saves him. But then the moment happens. And Harry collapses, says, Peter, why did you save me, Harry? Because you're my best friend. And this is I was trying to think, what was it? Didn't James Franco say that at the end? Didn't he say best friends or something like that before he died?
Something like that. Yeah.
Now the last 2 pages and you interviewed JMD Mateus yourself, Brad.
I did. He talked about these pages. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't he say, well, I know what he said, but since it was your interview, what did he say about these pages?
He said he was going to clutter up this beautiful looking art with word balloons, but he said Sal Buscema did such a beautiful job penciling these. They tell the story without words. You don't need them. And I agree 100%. These couple pages of Harry Osborn's death are absolutely beautiful. Just 2 pages, not cluttered up. You can tell what's going on. Yeah. You can tell. Yeah. So just beautiful art. Beautiful. Yeah.
So, and that's usually when you have, the artist is, a really good artist is as much part of the story as the writer. And when they're in sync, that's when you can really get some, wonderful stories. But yeah, I mean, it's like, and credit to GM Mateus, to have the to have the I'm not sure but anyway, to realize, hey, the story is stronger if I let the artist do the talking.
You know who else, to his credit, was like that, was JMS. There were times when JMS knew exactly when to shut up and just let the art do what the art does.
Yeah.
Just
beautiful stuff.
And now that that you mentioned that, I mean the gimmick of when they had the Nuff Said gimmick where there was no dialogue, the Spider-Man issues were actually pretty good. With no dialogue. I mean,
I like the Jenkins one with the mimes.
That was
hysterical.
Clever. Jenkins was a great 1-issue storyteller.
Yeah,
he really was. He wasn't much, unfortunately, of a plotter for multi-part stories.
His Norman stuff was great. I know you don't like the Ramos art, but his his Norman story was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good story. But what I'm saying, like he did the 5-part Doc Ock, the 5-part Venom.
Those are
it
padded.
just seemed like some of the longer stories didn't play to his strength. So anyway, boys and girls, I mean, and a couple of really classic Goblin issues there.
They are. They are.
And I honestly think that it's. I mean, again, there's always a debate. Was Harry the better Goblin? Was Norman the better Goblin? Obviously, you know what my opinion is. But I honestly think that these issues, particularly issue 200, shows that yes, it's great to have my villain, my best friend, but the Green Goblin has to be a criminal. Harry was not a criminal. Harry was a screwed up young man who'd been treated like crap by his father, who had a massive inferiority complex. And you know what's funny is Peter didn't do him a whole lot of favors either. In fact, in trying to get through all of this because of the tremendous pressure Brad places on me, of course. But anyway, there's a period where Harry says, in fact, I think it's at the maybe it's at the end of issue 200 here. Here we go. We used to do a pretty good job of working things out when we were roomies. Remember, no matter what the problem was, we'd always find a way to talk things through, which is a fallacy. That's part of the problem. Peter didn't have time for Harry.
He didn't. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, so, really, that's kind of one of the issues. I mean, Harry is responsible for his own.
It's the whole point of the 2 drug issues.
Yeah. Anytime that anytime that Harry was troubled for whatever reason, and Harry needed a friend, Harry needed somebody to work through, and present an alternative view to like his dad's psycho worldview. Peter was never there. He was never there. He never had time for him. Harry was like, "Hey, let's go out and do, let's go drink. Yep. Let's look at porn or whatever. No, Harry, I got to do this. I got to."
What?
Come on.
Well, I mean, come on. Don't you think they're in New York in the 60s and the 70s?
Oh. So it's automatically like autofocus with Greg Kinnear and
no, it's not Bob Crane and that wacky Carpenter guy.
JR.
It's like going down to the Peep Show or something on 42nd Street.
Okay. Didymus has a question for you. Could they have developed Harry to be more evil and villainous like Norman?
No, Harry didn't need to be.
No. That really wasn't Harry's character.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have. I mean, it's like anything. I mean, Dan Slott could make Felicia Hardy a criminal mastermind, right?
True.
A criminal kingpin.
Yeah.
He could do it, but that didn't make it in character. Harry was a scared, lonely kid who never grew up out of that. They could have made him a criminal, but I don't think that was Harry's character.
Yeah. We got one more issue left, and I don't remember this one. I remember those first 2 a lot. And did this one come out after 200?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it did. Okay, yeah.
That's in fact why I why I made this like a 3-fest. I mean, really, in a way, these actually are really the end of Harry Osborn or the end of the Osborn legacy. At that time, you had 189 where Harry pretty well was gone for good. He was off the reservation for good. There was no coming back. All right. Number 200 finished off that story. And then this issue, which is also written, which is also plotted by J.M. DeMatteis and Tom Lyle. So the script was Ann Nocenti and D. Blaze. So I'm not sure how much, when you see that, you kind of wonder how much of the story is who. But this is kind of the epilogue. This is kind of the coda. And given the time and given George's fading attention span here, really it's kind of the gist of the story is, Peter is, we're in the aftermath of Harry's death, and Peter is trying to reconcile, his what Harry had been to him as a friend, how close he had been to Harry, how close he had been to Harry's family. I mean, Liz, he'd known Liz for many, many years. Norman was his godson, for example. And so Peter's trying to reconcile these feelings of the affection he had for Harry and his family with the hatred that he has for what Harry did, for the hatred of the man that Harry had become. And so he's trying to reconcile these issues. Um, and of course, part of the story too is kind of the cycle of madness, the cycle of abuse. The how it like poisons generations. If they can't, if somebody doesn't step in, and that's kind of what Peter is going through. Why didn't anybody step in at any time during Norman's life, during Harry's life, and end this? So Peter's wrestling with all this, and he comes, beats up some bad guys or whatever. And in his typical, he takes out his frustrations on the first thugs that he meets. But during this time, he runs into an old Osborn Industries facility. Oh, gee, look where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so he decides to walk through and revisit some old memories. And then we get into the plot where Harry has essentially written his sort of memoirs, and he explains who he is, how he became what he became. He talks about the Osborn family history. And this is where we learn, and of course the cover says learn the most shocking secret of all. But anyway, this is so Harry kind of goes back to the family history, and what he does is, so not only do you when Spider-Man puts in the tape, then these tentacles come and they start implanting memories in him. And this is why, for example, when you see it play out, a small Peter Parker is in place of Harry theoretically at the time.
Wow.
So we learn, we kind of get Norman's background, how his father was a drunk, his father beat his mother, his father was a failed businessman who blamed his own failures on everybody else. And then he'd do the abuse and then the contrition. And of course, this is all just kind of warping Norman's mind. And this is where Norman kills the family dog and burns it.
Oh, this is awful.
Yeah. This is the, and that's kind of what, that's how they say serial killers start.
Oh yeah.
They say once that's one of the things that serial killers do is, they start torturing and killing animals. But this just, shows kind of how Norman became poisoned. And this is in Spider-Man, rips the cords off and he goes, he tries to escape, but the problem is, he doesn't. Whatever, Harry's left something in there, so Spider-Man continues to relive all of these memories, and he relives how Norman's when Norman's wife died, when Emily died, or whatever, how that devastated and destroyed Norman. And I've always kind of course, that is until Slott brought her back, right?
Right.
Which I wonder if Nick Spencer would have fixed that too. Since
never got to it, did they?
I would still like to see an explanation for why they decided to shit can that story so badly.
Nick Spencer has an offer from us. I would love to hear his side. But anyway, I didn't know
he's probably not ready to tell that story.
I did not know that Norman was physically abused his kid. I'd slapped him around the face.
Yeah,
Ooh.
It's
child abuser.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was. I think he was more of a verbal abuser.
I've never seen him hit him.
Yeah,
in a story. Have you?
Well, no. I mean, this is the first time we're actually getting into this.
Yeah.
This is the first time that we're actually. I mean, we knew that he was verbally abusive.
Right.
The fact that he could have been physically abusive is no surprise. I don't think he physically abused Harry as much as he verbally abused him, because physical abuse. It's just kind of the difference. It's almost like Harry was so beneath him, and that's the kind of thing that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. And we can't. These are implanted memories that are probably faulty, so you can't take it with a grain of salt. You have
an unreliable narrator,
exactly,
and that's why. In fact, when I in one of my articles when I was talking about the goblins, whenever Norman or Harry is telling their story, it's like you have to think of the movie Rashomon. Where you see the same story, but it's told from different angles, and the tale that they tell actually of the same event is entirely different.
Correct.
So so probably there's some truth to this. There's the truth, there's Harry's truth, and there's Norman's truth, and there's the truth.
Something in between, yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me if Norman was physically abusive, not to the point of beating him or whatever, but just getting him out of my face, getting him out of my hair, and actually I think Norman's abuse was more psychological. You're worthless. You're unworthy of me.
Almost
you're
better to take a
inferior.
slap than hear that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of abuse I think Norman heaped upon, because that's how Norman treats people. I mean, just he was just a mean, angry, vicious person.
Yes.
And a great villain. But so anyway, we go through these memories, and again, Norman, again, like I said, there's and this is the thing, too. And actually this kind of hits home, to be honest. Because when you're a parent, sometimes you say things that you really wish you hadn't said. And then you want to take, and you try to take it back. And but this is, I mean, baby, this is the cycle, I mean, this is a cycle, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And then Norman turns again, because Norman is, and this is the thing, Norman, when he sees weakness in Harry, he resents it because he sees the weakness in himself. Norman was not a happy person, I mean, and Norman was there was part of Norman that was probably sensitive, probably that craved affection from his own father, and he didn't get it, and so when he sees Harry's needs, it reminds him of what his own needs were and how his own needs were unfulfilled, and so that really, that's one reason why, he treated Harry like he did, because he saw a lot of himself in Harry, and that's the one reason. But and also the way he figured it, I worked myself out of this, Harry. Why can't you? I made something of myself out of, why can't you? And that's also another reason, why Norman hates Peter Parker, because Norman and Peter have had a lot of the same time. I mean, they both had miseries. They both have tragedies. They've both had things they've overcome, but he sees that Peter is the better man, better than he'll ever be. And so Norman sees the man he could have been, but wasn't strong enough to be. Right. And that's why he hates Peter Parker. So he sees Harry, he sees his own weaknesses. In Peter, he sees the man he was too weak himself to become.
And
so
jealousy. Yeah.
Exactly. Which again is why I think Norman is the better villain. I mean, ultimately of the two, and why Norman is like someone once said, I didn't make this up, but I think it's great. I think Dr. Octopus is Spider-Man's greatest enemy. Norman Osborn is Peter Parker's greatest enemy.
It's pretty good. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, like I said,
two sides of a coin. Yep.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so we go through the story, and then we find out the quote unquote secret, that because, we all know the story of the formula blowing up in Norman's face and turning him into the Green Goblin. Harry, says, oh, I'm the one that did that. I'm the one that did it. I'm the one that messed up the formula, and I'm the one that caused it to explode. I created the Green Goblin. I don't buy this. I don't buy it. I don't accept it as canon, because for one, there was no, when Lefty Donovan used the formula and it blew up in his face, there was no, small boy interfering with the chemicals,
right.
But this is just kind of silly. I mean, how long has it been since the science, I mean, you see this and, like, doop, 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 and say, is that really how chemistry works?
It does in comics.
But so I'd never, but I can believe that Harry believes it.
Right.
I mean, I think it's, Harry very well could have been, Harry very well could have mixed things up. Norman came back and said, well, let me start that all over again. And then it blows up in his face. So again, like I said, it's Rashomon. They're both crazy people. They're both telling the story from their perspective. And anyway, so Spider-Man finally works through all of this, and, he goes to Mary Jane and he kind of talks things over, but ultimately he goes to try to make peace with Liz and little Norman. He said, I can either continue to hate Norman, continue to hate Harry, even though they're long dead, and that's all. And, or I can try to save Normie. I can try to give Normie the example that those two never had. And I can try to be the man in his life that neither one of them could be in their own. So,
and I don't think Pete had enough time for Normie either, unlike his father.
Well, that's the thing, you know. I mean,
No?
it's like, but but that's the. Of course, then again, not too many long after this, Harry comes back anyway, right? So, but well, no, that's the thing. I mean, it's like anything else, you know. Like the story was told, and you know, forgot. You know,
Yeah.
it's like so you don't see Peter going and visiting Normie all the time.
You don't.
But no, but the point is, Peter was not. I mean, and ultimately, kind of like we said, Peter was not a very good friend to Harry. He really wasn't.
No.
When Harry needed him, when Harry, Peter was off doing his own thing, and that's kind of the thing. That's where Peter is kind of a little bit narcissistic too. So wrapped up in his own problems, so wrapped up in his own guilt, he doesn't see the people around him that are slowly dying. He's off saving the world, but he's not paying attention to the needs and the wants of the people around him. So, but that's what makes him a flawed hero in a way. So, but anyway, that's the end of Harry Osborn's story.
Yeah.
And if you were to actually have paid money to read an annual about Spider-Man, guess what? Half the issue is not Spider-Man.
No, it's got the Shroud.
We have the backup stories with the Foreigner and the Shroud. Yeah. Why? Because Marvel does shit like that. So
that's true.
Boys and girls.
Was this that's probably, is this one of your favorite stories of all time with the Harry or Goblin in general?
Not really.
No, it doesn't rank up there for you.
I never really liked the Harry Goblin stories because I never thought Harry was. I mean, I always enjoyed when I saw the Green Goblin when Harry became the Goblin. But the more you saw Harry as the Goblin, the more you realized his dad was better. You just did. That doesn't mean these aren't good stories. I mean, ultimately, and this is one of those when you look at the panorama of Spider-Man history. This is how the only way Harry's story could have been.
Yeah,
I mean, really, it is a kind of a tragic story, and if you ever told a linear story of Spider-Man and cut out all the, if you ever went back and told the Spider-Man story pretending that it was like one coherent narrative, this would be a very logical part of Spider-Man's history. I mean, they're fine stories, but I think they just kind of accentuate that. Yeah, ultimately, Norman was the better Goblin.
Yeah. George, your thoughts on this 3 issues? Did you like it a lot? I did.
No.
No.
Well, I remember at the time, I didn't hate it, but I was also like, for an annual, I kind of want to, I kind of want to see a different kind of beating ass.
Well, I was talking about all 3 issues together, like 189 and 200. I think.
Oh, you mean like the month? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
the month.
You've got 2 big important issues,
exactly.
and the first 2 that we covered. I didn't realize this, but I was going back and looking at Annual 14, and it's got script credit for Ann Nesenti.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. I used to like her stuff back in the day.
I need to read the Romita Jr. and her Daredevil, which I hear is great. I just never have read it.
She was always a good writer.
Yeah, she was. Before we wrap it up, before we do final thoughts, I asked the chat if they have any questions for us before we go. Ace versus Knight wants to know, what are our hopes for ASM 900? Will JR and George be reading it?
No. I kind of every now and then, like I'll give little PSAs to people, with my vast experience now as a battered partner with Marvel. Don't hope for these things. And I said this when I announced that I was no longer reading ASM and that I was
done.
That was done.
Yeah.
Don't get your hopes up about these milestone issues. Oh, this will happen in 900. That's not, or that, no, it won't be 900. It'll be 1000. No, whatever it is that you want to happen is not going to happen. Especially if it's anything related to Peter and Mary Jane. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
What will happen is exactly what we got with the Spencer run. Best case scenario, they're together for a while. And then they'll make you think, oh, are they? No, the answer is no, they're not. It's always going to be no, they're not.
Yeah.
Going forward. So don't pin any hopes on 900. Don't pin any hopes on 1000. Best case scenario, and I cannot stress this enough. I've been so happy since I gave this crap up. I really have. Since I finally woke up and realized not only does Marvel care about me as a reader, but I myself now was able to finally finally hit that mark where I was like, I'm done. I'm ending this abusive relationship with Marvel. I'm out. I'm just out of here. Because they think so little of you as readers. And I wish more of you could understand that, but they really do. They do not respect you at all. So I won't be around for 900 or anything else.
Issue 900 will be combining the Sinister Six into the Super Adaptoid, as I put on the front page.
God.
So that's what that is.
Ah.
And here is Romita's cover for 900.
I mean, it's Romita, and I love Romita, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy that issue. I'm not buying anything.
Seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah,
that's what 900 is. So we have a note from George. JR, are you going to go try Zeb Wells issue 1 and then 6 issues later 900?
Well, I've been I've been asked if I'm coming back to the review show. Here's the thing.
The fans miss you.
I don't. But here's the thing, and I've said this sometimes when I talk about being too old for this. Maybe it's time to give it up. And contrary to what George said, I'm not looking for sympathy or people to say, "Oh yes, please come back. Oh, great one." But there are two things that like.
It's okay. No one's going to say that.
No one said that.
Yeah,
no one said great one. I just said where's JR? I get every now and then.
There are two things that bad writers, bad producers say because they don't want to take responsibility for their own crap. One of that is it wasn't for you. And another one is if you don't like it, why did you buy it? Why do you read it? Why do you continue to do it if all you do is complain about it? Now, like I said, those two excuses are used way too often to dismiss bad creative stuff, period. I mean, it's like, oh, it's not for you. Well, no, I mean, for example, though, Phineas and Ferb was not for me. The Wiggles was not for me. The Powerpuff Girls was not for me, but I could actually sit with my children and enjoy watching them, even though they weren't for me, and I would never watch them on their own, but I could sit and enjoy them with my children. Okay. Now, conversely, I could also tell when they went bad. When it's like, oh, this really sucks. They're like the Wiggles is a good example. My wife and I used to watch we'd get Spencer or Wiggles tape. We'd watch it, and then like we bought a couple for Christmas. Like, boy, that really sucks. They're getting lazy. So yeah, it's not for you, but you can still enjoy it. Okay. Yeah. And also there's if you don't like it, just stop reading it. Well, no, in other words, you're abdicating your responsibility to try to entertain people. But there is a semblance of truth to both of them. Sometimes it isn't sometimes you have to walk away. Sometimes if you truly don't like something, you do have to walk because it isn't going to change. And George is absolutely right. He's, I think a lot of us hold on thinking, oh, it's going to change. It's not going to change. It isn't going to change. Marvel doesn't care. Here's the thing. I'm not like I said when we reviewed Spencer's art. I'm not so mad that quote unquote Peter and Mary Jane didn't get together. Like I've always said, we're not guaranteed an ending. We're not guaranteed the ending we want, but I think we should be guaranteed a good story. And that thing absolutely
the ending.
It was
the ending sucked.
Horrible. Yeah, I mean, every single whatever he had planned, they just shit canned it all. Yeah. So there's that. So this is the thing that I wrestle with. At what point in time do you finally give up? I'll probably be here for part of it. I tell you, here's the conundrum. Spencer still likes this stuff. This is something that Spencer and I still have in common. I used to watch baseball all the time with my dad when my dad was alive. It's like I was a Cub fan. And so how much misery do you have to put up with when you're a Cub fan? Until 2016 when they actually won. How much misery did you have to put up with?
So the pull of you is Spencer likes it. I think you enjoy our company, and you like being the old man that says, "Get off my lawn. This book sucks."
Well, but I
so
think
you're pulled.
But there is a time. I think that my time isn't yet. I think I'll be here for 900, but I do think the window is closing. I've told Spencer. I said, Spencer, I'd like to make it to 1,000. And then quit. Yeah. I mean, because I really think, it's like when you've been in something for so long, you might as well go to the end.
Yeah.
But I really do say, I think the end is coming.
Gary in the Frozen says, what do you think of Romita Jr. coming back?
That's
There's
probably
some,
about the only thing that's look forward to.
yeah. By
I
the
don't
way,
think
if you want to buy a variant cover of issue number 1 before 900, look at all the variant covers that you can. Oh, that I love that one, by the way.
No, this is not selling me on anything.
No, nothing.
No.
Oh, look at that one. Look at the Goblin Queen.
I mean, I love Ramita, but I mean, all these variant covers, I could care less.
and these
I'm
variant
not.
covers.
I'm not a variant fetishist like a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I mean, I like occasionally to buy a variant cover or two. I mean, if I
Yeah.
like the cover, if I really like the cover, but this is just more trying to pump the the dwindling fan base for as much money as they can get out.
Variants are lipstick on a pig.
Yep.
Gary in the Frozen wants to know Spider-Man 3 versus Amazing Spider-Man 2. What's the better film, probably?
Well, for me, if he's talking Spider-Man 3 in reference to the Raimi films, or is he talking
I
to
think Raimi.
The
the
Raimi
current
film,
stuff?
think.
If he's talking about the Raimi film, yeah, I mean,
Electro versus.
yeah, no, I would still go with Spider-Man 3 has its flaws, but my God, it
Yeah.
was not Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing
Amazing
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
2 is easily the worst of the films.
But the Gwen death at the end is so good. It almost.
It's that one. No, it does not make up for the rest.
I don't know if it makes up for the whole
Gwen's
film,
death
but-
does not make up for how bad Jamie Foxx.
the Jamie Foxx stuff is
Electro.
right. But they redeemed him in No Way
Or
Home,
the
thankfully.
creepy date rapey Dane DeHaan or whatever his name is.
Or
Harry.
Kafka.
He was. I was waiting for him to slip a Mickey into somebody, some girl's
Ooh, yeah.
drink. I mean, he was creepy.
JR, what's yours?
To be honest, I think Spider-Man 3. I mean, had a lot of problems, but I think part of Spider-Man 3's problem was it needed another pass in the editing room.
Yeah.
I've watched that. You watch that movie. I just think, man, if they had taken out some of the creepy Toby stuff, the take on this and the dancing across the table, and it's like, man, another pass, get rid of the British reporter, which is, and the Raimi's kids, which kind of take you out of to me, there's just all kinds of sloppy editing in that picture.
Yeah.
But it was still an honest attempt. And I don't think Avi Arad was wrong to say Venom should be in this movie because people wanted to see Venom.
Yep.
And if you're wanting to tell a story of the whole thing going to his head, Venom is a good character for that. So I think Raimi was a little bit short-sighted there, not to say, yeah, I think that can make this work. Yeah. But there was an honest attempt to tell a good story. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was not an honest attempt to tell a good story. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a naked attempt by Sony to create a movie Spider-Verse. And the story was incidental.
Yeah.
So
I like Spider-Man 3 over it. Peter Palmer, who's on the list. How do you guys think that Harry's life would have played out if Emily was around?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think he'd still be dead. To be honest, that's just
we know nothing about that character, honestly, do we? Emily Osborn, next to nothing.
And that's why I like to think.
And she could have been a Liz.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking more like Lady Macbeth. What if
like a Vanessa Fisk?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because we know nothing about her. Maybe she, maybe one reason, because obviously Norman adored her, but maybe she could control and manipulate Norman. Norman's smart, but he's careless. He's careless. He's weak in many ways. He's not, and that's actually kind of one of the reasons I like him. He's not like, because Norman Osborn is ultimately his own worst enemy. But I tend to think, what if maybe Emily Osborn would have made him worse because she might have been able to kind of keep that insanity in check. Norman, take your meds, and he would listen to her, or she'd be around, looking at people who aren't acting in Norman's best interest. So I mean, it's easy to say, oh, she would have made Norman's life better. He wouldn't have been a villain. Harry would have been loved, and he wouldn't have been a villain. And well,
no one was going to stop Norman from being.
No one was going to stop Norman, and I like to think that maybe she might have actually made it worse. I think that's a better story.
Mr. Comics says, Jer, was your theory for Norman becoming Norman and Green Goblin to stop being the good guy? Is that what your theory is? I don't know.
I'm not sure what that was. Your theory for Norman becoming Norman, Green Goblin, and stop being the good guy? Norman became the Green. I mean, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay.
But Norman was going to be a bad guy regardless. And the Green Goblin was Norman's way of thwarting society's conventions. He knew that as Norman Osborn, he had to prevent one face, but that wasn't his real face. Kind of like Bruce Wayne is a facade and Batman is the real personality. In a way, Norman Osborn, the businessman, is the facade. The Green Goblin is the personality. The Green Goblin is what Norman Osborn wants to be, what Norman Osborn likes to be. You know, that's why he likes sometimes to dress in his costume and sit in his office. And
it's the reason why the Joker doesn't care that he knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne is so entitled to what Batman is.
Yeah.
Norman
likes being the Green Goblin.
No doubt. Kelly is agreeing with George about how someone who has to break down the last 2 issues lately, how the books just aren't that great. And Kelly also
it's because
JR.
It's because
thank you, Kelly.
It's because I mean, Marvel knows that they can just throw a variant cover on there, sell X amount of issues, no matter how good or bad the story is. Literally, they coast on that. You don't have to have a good story. They're willing to sabotage something that was an interesting story just because they didn't want it to go the way that the writer did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so at that point, why as a reader would you respect them? Because they just showed you they don't respect you as a reader at all. So why would you keep buying their crap? Why?
No, and this even goes back to One More Day. I mean, if you want to split Peter to Mary Jane up, tell an honest story. Tell a story about divorce. Tell a story about a broken relationship that's beyond repair. Don't do this. They told a dishonest story. And again, 75, it was a dishonest story. That's not a way a story would, that's not where it was going, but you just turned it that way for your own petty indulgences.
Yeah.
Grievances.
Ace versus Knight says, JR, oh, great one. Please come back.
wait. Did he say, great one. Yeah.
Please come back. Oh, great one. He wants him back reviewing. Be Rich, my friend from Kansas City, says JR is the GOAT.
Yeah.
JR, that means greatest of all time. I know you're over 50. I want to tell you what the abbreviation.
But it's funny. I mean, one reason I didn't want to review the Beyond issues is I knew I would hate them all. And what's the point? I mean, that's another thing too. It's like if you're going to hate something and you're going to say the same thing every month, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Why would you want to? I mean, why is you would want to listen to me do that? To be honest, actually, it's more fun to let Brad do it.
Yeah. Now I'm the old man on the show now because I'm not liking the Beyond issues. Most of them.
It's the same reason I didn't stick around for that. What am I going to say about clone stories? They're shit. What am I? I mean, literally, that's every month. This is a story about a clone, about a carbon copy Xerox Spider-Man. It is shit. Yeah. It's not even a real character, dude. I'm sorry, it's not. It's
our friend Bruce says he has been buying ASM for 52 years. He's not going to stop. He's like me. I can't. Yeah. I don't know what would I'm with Bruce. I don't know what it would take me to not check in monthly with my friend Spider-Man.
I mean, for me, it was the ongoing apathy I kind of got from the company that published it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's like, and there's a very good video out by a guy by the name of, I think his name's Mike French, but he did this video. He does retro blasting or whatever. But anyway, it's like why Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who all went into the crapper. The powers that be do not care. They do, and they are not interested in our opinion. They're interested in reaching an audience that is not us. They want an audience that is like them, that thinks like them. They twist the characters to appeal to people they want. I mean, they're not interested. They're not interested. It's just like back, and I hate to bring this back because people were like, "Oh, Stan, we're this and Stan, we're that." No, Stan had his time, but you can honestly say though that they really did genuinely want to tell good stories.
I would agree. Kelly has a good point about variant covers. She says variant covers are for people who say they are comic fans and collectors, but don't actually read the comics at this point. It's all for the aesthetic. That probably sounds mean, but it's very much like the 90s speculator market, I think, Kelly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like that's the hologram cover. That's
exactly. Yeah. I lived through it before. Yeah. So
it's
yeah.
What was it we said on hour 2 or whatever? History will repeat itself.
Yeah.
The variant covers are the 90s boom. Peter Palmer agrees with your creepy Dean DeHaan, Harry Osborn.
Yeah, it was.
Imagine JR's cameos, requesting him repeating lines from symbiote Spider-Man or Toby from Spider-Man 3. JR, dig on this. Just made my night.
No, it just, I can't even watch. I mean, honestly, I did buy the version which had the extra scenes, the director's cut of Spider-Man 3. I didn't even watch it long enough to make it through to actually see the new scenes. Like I mean, that's a film that really does not hold up well at all. Not at all.
You know what was a big part, I think, of what hurt Spider-Man 3 so much is how good Spider-Man 2 was.
Oh, I know. How are you going to follow that up?
How do you follow Spider-Man 3? It certainly wasn't or how do you follow Spider-Man 2? It certainly wasn't Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
But, like JR says, at least though, with Raimi, at least Raimi gave it an effort. He wasn't just phoning it in. That's not who Raimi is. That's why I'm excited about Raimi doing Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I think maybe I read it somewhere. I thought he's signed up for Doctor Strange 3 too, but I could be mistaken.
Wouldn't surprise me. I swear to God, I wish he would have been on Doctor Strange 1.
What do you think would be different? I know you don't like that film, but I kind of do. I've
softened on it a little bit, but I still don't like the way they do dialogue for Doctor Strange. It's gotten better, but he's way too flippant and street. He's like, welcome to, he calls the bad guy an asshole at one point. And I'm like, that's not Doctor Strange. It's not.
Yeah. Doctor Strange seemed, you're absolutely, it's just it just feels wrong. He should be a little bit more elegant in his conversation.
He should,
not overly so, but just a little bit more, not given to slang. Doctor Strange would not talk in slang unless he were deliberately trying to be funny and failing or whatever.
Yes, and that's consistent, JR, with how he's been portrayed, how he's classically portrayed as a character, especially through Marvel's early history. So I wish Raimi could have done that. Maybe Raimi would have cut that down. I like to think that, at least. I don't remember Spider-Man calling anybody an asshole, for example, in a Raimi film. I mean, it's just jarring as for me as like hearing Darth Vader walk in to the rebel base and saying, "Hey, jerk offs." You know what I mean? And this is why I give Discovery a pass, because they're like, "Oh yeah, they curse now and that," and I'm like, "Really?" Because that doesn't feel like Star Trek.
They never have before. Yeah,
I'm like, that doesn't feel to me like Star Trek not at all.
The only people on Star Trek who I think could get away with cussing would be McCoy and Scotty, because I think that's just the type of person they were. But they were old. See, here's the thing: the old Star Trek, as creaky and flawed and cheesy as it was, they had character actors. They just didn't have a bunch of pretty people that were, could fill out the uniforms or meet their diversity goals or something like that. So
I just don't see McCoy dropping an F-bomb. I just don't. I just don't. I see DeForest Kelly dropping F-bombs.
Yeah.
But I don't see McCoy dropping F-bombs.
All right.
When he and Kirk and Scotty were all sitting drinking and like on Argelius, I can see him do it. But your point's well taken, though. I mean,
I'm talking about it as a show in real life. If Star Trek was real life, sure, they'd be sitting there, they'd be talking about hot chicks and booze, and they'd be swearing left and right. But I don't watch Star Trek because I want to see real life. I'm watching it because it's escapist fantasy.
Yeah. Real quick, McNulty's in the chat. Hearing this discussion, I can't help but think that for as much flack as he got, if Jim Shooter was still editor-in-chief, he would have demanded that the writers tell an honest story, and that's what we're missing. I would agree. But I don't think anybody's held the editor-in-chief job for 40 years.
I think you guys are saying that, and JR's thinking of the same Jim Shooter that wrote Secret Wars, and
he can't stand that.
He's quietly seething right now. But I mean, Shooter was a good steward for the characters. Yeah. I think it was Shooter that poo-pooed the Felicia Hardy getting pregnant story.
Yeah.
Because he knew that would fly in certain markets, right.
Yeah.
Well,
So before we
as
wrap,
little
oh,
as
go
I
ahead,
think,
Jared.
no, sorry, as little as I think of Secret Wars. Actually, Jim Shooter is actually coming to one of my favorite comic shops in Cleveland, and
He's a good dude. I've met him.
Spencer and I have talked about because Spencer has the trade of Secret Wars. But as little as I think of Secret Wars, not going down that.
Wait a minute.
Shooter
wait.
was, I think,
hold
Shooter
on.
was
Your boy is gonna walk up to Jim Shooter with a Secret Wars trade and get it autographed and take it back to the house.
probably.
I love it. That's what you
too.
get. That's the world you deserve, Jr.
Jr. From hell's heart, I stab at thee.
Stab at thee, my last breath. Yep. I spit at thee.
But I do. I mean, I think it's obvious when you look at Jim Shooter. He ran. And this is why eventually he fell out of favor too. I mean, he ran. Creative types cannot be told what to do. They can't stand to be told what to do. And Jim Shooter wanted the trains to run on time. Yeah. And I think you're right, McNulty. I mean, I don't think he would have put up with a lot of this crap. But unfortunately, he also had that kind of personality that he dug his own grave.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read Jim Owsley's review or discussion of why I never talked Spider-Man, there were just, even when Shooter tried to do the right thing, sometimes like returning to artist arts or whatever, he always either said or did something. I've kind of been, I've been in situations where like I have a boss who managed by not managing. And then you have a manager who comes in and tries to manage, and everybody resents that manager. Even if the manager's right about some things, they resent it because they've never been told what to do before. They've not been held accountable before. And that just really grates on them. But it's, but the thing is now, Marvel has editors who won't edit. That was never Shooter's problem, things probably would be better if you had an editor in chief who would edit. I don't know what the hell does CB Cebulski do? Is he the editor in chief now?
You don't hear much out of him, like you did Quesada and or Jemis and etc. No. Hey, before we wrap up the show, I want to tell you tomorrow night we're going to review books that these two will never read. We've got
you poor bastards.
We've got Dark Ages, Dark Reign, Ben Reilly, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Carnage Forever, the Venom book, Silk, Spider-Gwenverse, Avengers Tech On with Spider-Man in a Transformers suit, Spider-Woman, Villains for Hire, Devil's Reign, which is a good book. I like that. One of the worst books ever is Superior. What's the one where Doc Ock gets all the variants of himself? Well, you two don't know. But you can join my friends. You got Neil, you got Kelly, you got Tyler, and Hornacek is coming on tomorrow night on our YouTube channel to review some of these books. What will we like? What will we not like?
Oh, wait, hang on. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, I'm glad Hornacek's getting in.
Yeah.
Right? He's long time, crawl spacer. We always have a good time. But we've gotten to the point now where the main staff is like, I'm done reading this. So we're bringing in fans or crawl spacers to review the book instead. That's how bad some of the books are. Regular staff won't touch him anymore, so we have to bring in.
But
we have to
some of these books are great. The Ben Reilly, JMD Mateus book is good.
Stop.
It is.
Yes.
What else?
I like JMD, but a clone story is a clone story. I'm sorry.
Devil's Reign by what's the guy's name who did Spider-Man Life Story? Chip Zdarsky.
Oh,
is pretty good.
That's a non-starter. I saw where he went to Batman and kind of gave a little window into
Superior 6, yes,
and how stuff goes down at Marvel.
Yeah,
he was there's no point in writing Spidey, so I'm just gonna go write Batman. I was like, oh wow, a message received, dude. Yeah, okay, you'd be a better fit at DC. Go away.
But if you want to watch these, we're going to do a pre-show at 7, and then 7:30 we're going to go exclusively to our Patreon members. Patreon.com/crawlspace is where you can watch the full show. I think that's like 17 issues, and we're recording. I think we're recording it early, and I said to the staff, I'm like, hey, we're going to do it early. I think we got less books, and then I counted them up. I'm like, I think this is more than last month when we did it at the end of the month. So there's a lot of books we'll tackle. Again, patreon.com/crawlspace. You can watch my crew. We review this. So
Pray for
All right.
these poor. For these
Final
poor
thoughts, George.
I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I felt I enjoyed the first 2 hours. I felt like the third hour I was kind of held hostage. I felt peer pressured because I wanted to go, and you guys were like, "No, George, you can't leave."
That's because we enjoy your company.
We haven't done this in months, George. That's why you stayed on.
You're Johnny.
Besides, you hung on for that crap. You had to hang on for the Goblin Hour, So
yeah. Oh, McNulty's reading Devil's Reign. Oh, to be fair, I have read nothing but good things about Devil's Reign, which I still have yet to read. It's very good, McNulty.
Oh, but you've read things about the thing that you haven't read.
The third hour turned into 2.
I'm reading what other people say about this thing that I haven't read. It's apparently very good.
Kelly has her limit of how many she can review when it's bad too.
I mean, I hit my limit. I used to do this, and I'm not doing it, and haven't done it for several years.
What does it say about me? I've done it on multiple.
It says what I've always said about you.
Oh no.
What JR and I said earlier tonight.
Uh-oh.
What you consider to be good and acceptable is much lower compared to even normal people.
Normal people
compared to anybody.
Oh.
Your justification. I mean, and I say this. I've said this several times. Just to be funny lately, as I've said, I can already hear Brad in my head saying, "Yeah, but it's got Stegron in it. You like Stegron?" Like I asked you this week about, "Oh my God, this new Hulk sucks," and I'm like,
"It does. That new Hulk book's awful."
But it's got the Hulk in it, Brad. You love the Hulk.
Oh, but man, I get it now.
So yeah, you are somebody who factors the cover into your grade of the book. Well, you are so you have already a low threshold. Number one, number two, you will buy goddamn anything.
Well,
you will buy goddamn anything, Brad.
I've missed you for 3 months.
I've missed you too. I've missed you too. But you're laughing because you know I'm right.
Well, I'm not disagreeing. I bought a lot of crap. I could shovel the amount of crap comics I bought over the years. But you know what? And
I'm not willing to. I'm not willing to. I need a better reason to part with my money.
Venkman says I'm easily entertained,
especially now that gas is about to be $4, over $4 here in Texas.
I paid over $4 for premium here in Missouri. It's awful. Woo! JR, final thoughts. You haven't done this in months. What's it like to be back?
Well, I almost feel like I excised a demon almost, and now I can be calm, collective, and thoughtful for the future Spider histories.
Guess what? We don't have to do another show till June. June is the next time we'll do one of these shows.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
I should really be calm. I should really be calm by then. Very easygoing. In fact, it'll, bring your lounge chairs and everything, and it'll be a very calm, rational, reasoned discussion of Spider-Man.
Whenever actually ASM 1 comes out in like May, I think. So we may have JR back for ASM 1 Volume 6 because I just got to pull him back in. So fans, you may get JR back eventually. But George, his ass is gone.
George will stick around and come back and do news. Or
he can do news stuff, and he'll do this stuff
no
come reviews
every now and then for maybe an hour or two of Spider history going forward. But no, I'm not going back to it. I'm done as a Amazing Spider-Man reader.
It has been fun to have my friends back together, to talk Spider-Man, to be berated, insulted, questions my sanity. But it's always fun. And I love you like brothers. Well, Patreon, we out.